Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Norm.
Well,
Hey,
hello.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, good.
That was a deep breath. That was a big sigh. That's like an end of podcast sigh.
No, it's sorry. I've been. Is it Tuesday?
It is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So
I have the
spent
same
the last
thing.
couple of days in pre-production on the next show I'm working on for Science Channel.
Mm-hmm.
The production team is amazing. I love the people that I'm working with. We've just spent like 7.5 solid hours bending back and forth a bunch of episodic plans and stuff, and it's really exciting. This is just a tease because I can't give out much information at this point, but we're going to have a really, really fun shoot.
But this gives you the sense of that mental state you're in that people never get to see. They think that making a TV show is all fun and games, showing up and, blowing things up. But it's just a lot of it just lives in your head. Well,
and there's a respect for what there's trying to be respectful of what it wants to be. We deal with this on Tested all the time, right? Gunther and Joey are always cutting stuff, and there's no formula for cutting a tested video. Each video kind of lives on its own, and you kind of have to figure out how it wants to be cut, right? You take all this material, and a TV show is this is no different. We have ideas for things I'd like to do, people I want to play with, and parameters under which we can want to make that narratively interesting. And then the real trick is, okay, so those are rough frameworks. Let's take some solid ideas and start gaming them out into how they would beat out to a 6-act normal television structure. And even then, you'll shoot everything, but you're not sure how it's going to feel until you're in the cutting room. So it's always about like trying to be awake to what the project itself wants.
I mean, but it always starts in the room with a few people sitting around talking about what the idea is
for several weeks usually.
Yeah, and
right.
then I assume you on real TV you don't do this, but one of the things that always blew me away about the way Joey works is that when he's shooting, he's cutting that video in his head as he's shooting.
Well, Joey, like just like the lead Mythbusters cameraman Scott Sorensen, who's a friend of ours and has worked with us on several things.
We love Scott.
They are the most importantly dangerous kind of camera people, because they're editors and producers as well as being camera people. And unfortunately, reality television is rife with a lot of camera people who are excellent at their jobs, but their jobs are usually to button on at the beginning of the day and button off at the end and cover everything that happens in the middle. Mm-hmm. And the kind of storytelling that we like to do, it benefits so much from a Joey or a Scott who thinks like an editor and cuts so that every shot has something moving in it as a rhythm that can be used for cutting.
Well, purposeful.
And even more importantly, like they're paying attention to what's going on around them enough so that if something amazing is, if Joey gets the sense that something amazing is going to happen, he's aware of what's going on around him enough that he gets set up to get that shot when it happens. And that's super rare.
And then once you have that thing, you have to make sure that you've covered around it so that when you put that episode into your video, it is surrounded by narrative that helps it make sense. Like that's non-trivial.
I always think of it as building a puzzle, except you're also making the pieces. And
right.
This is an analogy I use. Like you can make a 1,000-piece puzzle, or you can make a 100-piece puzzle. And if you're ambitious, you can make the 1,000-piece puzzle and have that much more detail, or it's a bigger canvas. But as you're making it, do you make just the border?
Right.
Or are you making all out? And as you're piecing it together at the end, you may find out you're missing the pieces.
Well, you don't find
you incomplete set.
You don't find out what the picture is until it's all done.
And that's exactly it.
Yeah. Well, and there are multiple. There's no right way, right? Like, so after you and Joey went to the Arctic Circle and we featured all those wonderful videos, both you and Joey dove into telling a personal story about the trip, 2 separate personal stories. You did yours on stage at Tested Live, which is one of my favorite things I've ever seen you do. I really love that telling of the story.
The video's on the site. You should go check it out.
Yeah, it's really worth seeing because it's a level of narrative storytelling that I think you indulged in. And I don't mean indulge in any bad sense. I mean in a really deeply important and awesome sense that connected me to your experience in a way that I found invigorating. And I was just this morning showing somebody Joey's cut of his trip, where he cuts to himself narrating, which, by the way, is one of my pet peeves of YouTube, is people filming themselves narrating. And yet Joey made it work. And I was like, how did you do that? What magic have you wrought? So again, like both of you, after doing your jobs and cutting together what you wanted to get from that trip, found a completely new story, each of you, to tell from your own vantage point.
And wanted to do it and wish we could start at the beginning immediately after we finished.
Oh, really?
You always wish that you could do it again, knowing what you know after wrapping the project.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the midst of a one-day build that you've sandwiched all your production meetings in between. You started a one-day build.
We shot a one-day build on Friday. Friday?
Yes,
yeah,
Friday.
On Friday that I totally screwed up.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so we'll finish it on Thursday, which is fine, but I screwed it up badly. And I
Like Leatherman sleeve badly or worse?
I had to bend this specific piece of aluminum, and I'd bought a specific piece of aluminum. And in order to make sure, so I'm doing both long, wide arch bends, but I'm also doing hard right angle bends. And this piece fits into, this is a bit of a tease, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It fits into what I'm building in a very specific way at 3 separate locations. So the size of this thing that I was bending had to be precise. So I test bent some aluminum that I had that was the same diameter in order to figure out my reference marks and my registration. That worked for me the first time I tried this build, but this time I had 2 different kinds of aluminum. And that meant that their bends behaved differently, even though I was using the same bender, because they had different types of ductility and springiness. And that meant that after I bent my hero piece of the only piece of aluminum I had, it was completely the wrong size. And then trying to fix it, I made it even worse.
You're talking about along the arch.
Along everything about it sucked.
And this is a realization that you came to not in the day. And you actually, I think you answered a question about this at New York Comic Con in the Q&A. It was an aha moment you had like middle of the night, very similar to when you did the Exploratorium project for your Strawn Beast.
Yeah, and frankly, like I was pissed. I thought I did some pre-work on this one-day build so that we could get it done in a day because I really wanted to.
Every once in a while, they happen in one day.
The best
Every
laid
once in a
plans.
while.
Do you know any only ones that happened in a single day is that Totoro, that giant Totoro?
You did one of the beaver box. I think you did we did the beaver box in one day.
Yeah.
It was a very long day.
But
yeah.
You know, I was pissed at the end of that day, and I was like, I was just mad at myself. I wasn't shitty with anybody else.
I mean, it's frustrating.
But yeah, it was frustrating. I didn't want this not to work.
Guess what, Adam? That makes good video. It's all right because it's gonna. You solve. We can talk about it now because you came to the realization.
Yeah.
And even though, cross our fingers, we haven't. It'll actually finish when we shoot it a couple days from now and wrap it up. You've already come on over the hump.
I mean, the thing is, like, I think Norm and I at this point have both seen you pretty frustrated in the shop over different things, and it's never like a grabbing the rubber mallet and smashing stuff in the shop. I mean, we've never seen that. I don't think. I mean, I haven't. Norm may have.
No.
But like, how do you turn that around and make it constructive? Do you or can you?
There's no thing that you can do with it. It just is.
Yeah.
Right. So, and just in the same way, it was a revelation when someone explained to me, I was having a fight with my then girlfriend. This is 30 years ago. I was having a fight with his girlfriend, and a friend said, well, that's what it is when you share a life with someone. You share all the good stuff and all the bad stuff. So you get dark and crappy and feel awful sometimes, and that's part of a life you're sharing with someone. And I was like, oh yeah, so it is. So there's no way to turn it around. I left here. I dutifully cleaned the shop. That felt like I was achieving something. And then I went home and I went upstairs onto the deck of the back of our house. My wife was out there, and she took one look at my face and she went, hard day? She could totally see it. And I was like, oh yeah, man, I just totally screwed something up. It was so awful. Just spinning my wheels. Thought I'd get a lot more done. Didn't get it done. And, then we figured out what we were going to have for dinner. And within a couple of hours, I felt pretty fine. And then literally at like 1 o'clock that morning, I was like, 2 different types of aluminum, you dummy.
Well, I mean, but like that, cleaning the shop is a key thing there, right? Like when I have a day that I spend all day doing something, and then I get to the end and it doesn't work out, and I feel like I wasted an entire day, which is like on my scale of worst feelings, it's like something bad happens to my kid, and then that one, right?
When you have get it done-itis,
Yeah.
and you want to achieve a thing by a time, yeah, that sucks.
And like when I come home, I mean, when I say come home, I mean walk across the hall from my office to the kitchen to see Gina. She will look at me and be like, "Look, you need to go out and mow the lawn or something." Yeah. And it's just that act of doing something like so that I feel like I did something productive that day.
Yeah.
Helps.
Well, also it's changing the scope of what your world is, because in the moment, if you're spending X number of hours on a thing, that is your world. That's the sphere of your world is very small. If you take a step back and you go for a walk and you take your dog out, the world becomes the size it is, and you realize it's kind of okay.
This is why getting bogged down in the news feels so bad.
Well, it's that grace of doing something in service. Frankly, whenever I get pissed off and I realize that I'm angry at different people for all sorts of different things, I realize the asshole is me, number one. But then I also think the way out of that for me is always like, you know, if I'm mad at everybody, it's not because everyone's being a jerk. And often the way through that to me is thinking about how I can be of service to the people around me. And cleaning the shop is absolutely part of that. Because at the end of that day, my shop was like, I was like, F you, shop. You have not lived up to my expectations today. And by you, I mean me. And I didn't want to clean up, but I was like, you know, tomorrow, future you is going to feel like you did the right thing by doing this. So just spend another 8 minutes and put all these tools away.
Yeah.
And that started me back towards feeling a little better. Yeah, this happens to everybody. I mean, we don't talk about it enough.
I mean, I feel like we
talk
do a
about
good
it.
job showing it,
But I
but
think
as a
that
society, we don't
culturally,
talk about stuff like
I
this.
think culturally it's really important to say, you know, that we all suffer from imposter complex. We all feel at times like we're total frauds. I said this on the podcast a few months, actually probably more than a couple of years ago now, but I was having lunch with a friend who's my age who had never heard about imposter complex and thought it was only him.
I'd never heard about it until I went to XO the year that you spoke, the first year in 2012. That was my first. They did a whole conference about imposter syndrome.
So great.
And if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's the idea that when you're in a group of people and when you're doing some work, you feel like you're not capable or eligible or qualified to be in that group or doing that work or whatever.
And you're sitting there waiting for someone to come up and go, you,
Yep.
clearly you don't know what you're doing. Time to go home.
Thanks for showing up. We'll see you later.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the fact is everyone
It's pretty universal.
suffers from
I mean,
that.
if you don't have it, you're probably a little bit of a narcissist, and we see how that works.
A little bit.
a little bit.
I don't trust people that don't feel like a fraud.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. It's kind of it's a Dunning-Kruger thing, right? It's the opposite of that, where as you learn more about any particular field, the thing that becomes more clear to you is how much more there is to know.
Yeah. So speaking on that front, there's a talk which I've been meaning for us to put up on Tested, and right after this, I'll send it to you so that we can put it up. My friend Sasha Judd is a wonderful speaker, and she gave this talk last time she was in San Francisco about working in diverse groups. And her talk was sort of a meta-analysis of different studies about diverse groups. And the 3 universals she found about working with diversity in groups is that, on average, more diverse groups produce better work. On average, that is just a truth. Diverse groups are less confident in their results than homogenous groups, which would also follow. It is deeply scientific to be skeptical of your own results, to have lower confidence, right? Too much confidence is a danger sign. And third, it's harder to work in diverse groups. There is no magic bullet. There's no way to make it easier. The fact is you will do better work. And while you'll have less confidence in that work, that's a good place to go because you're being rigorous. And that rigor requires effort, and the effort can't be made simpler. And yet again, diversity produces better results.
It's one of the
She said that she laid out this beautiful talk, and I want to link to it.
Put it on the side.
Yeah.
I'd love to watch that. When I started at Ars Technica a long time ago, I was working for a bunch of people who went to Harvard Divinity School, and their stated goal when we started that website was, hey, we don't want to ever publish a mistake, right? And it's the web, right? It's the web in like 1998, so you could edit pages.
Yeah,
nobody would ever have known back then because it was pre-Google cache,
way back.
Yeah. But the goal was, look, we want to spend enough time on everything that we rigorously get everything right. And as a result, they're the site that I know from that era that still exists in the form and has flourished and grown. And like they that happened because they got people with a diverse set of backgrounds, right? It started out as a bunch of white kids who went to Harvard Divinity School, and then they brought in people from different areas, and they hired one of their first hires was a woman, and it was like she was, I think, the only person I knew working in enthusiast press at that time that was a woman, and like it makes everything gets better.
Well, and this is a long way of me wheeling back around towards lower confidence in your output doesn't mean you're not doing the right job. In fact, we submit that's how it feels. Like you never feel like I've nailed it. Every time I have felt like that in my life was just about to reach out and pimp slap me.
This is really perfect. Good job, self.
Good job, self. Shoulder punch. Whack, says life. Your car broke down.
Yeah.
Before we continue with this week's conversation, I want to let you know who made this episode possible, and that's NordVPN. NordVPN is one of the most trusted online security solutions used by over hundreds of thousands of internet users worldwide. NordVPN's Chrome browser is lightweight and user-friendly from the first click and secures your browsing in seconds. It has thousands of servers in over 61 countries. You can even use it in China because it bypasses the Great China Firewall, and in countries in the Middle East. Get up to 6 simultaneous connections and unlimited bandwidth, which is really important. And with the risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no reason to put this off. Over the past couple of years, we've had the privilege of traveling all around the world for Tested to places like New Zealand and China and even friendlier countries. And using a VPN, even in those countries, is useful because it localizes you and lets you check things like what's trending on Twitter at home or use Netflix abroad and all sorts of online services. I don't travel without using a VPN. It makes me feel just that much more secure. Start protecting your internet experience today at nordvpn.com/tested and use the code TESTED to get 66% off a 2-year plan. That's about $3.99 per month. Or text TESTED to 900-900. Once again, that's nordvpn.com/tested, and the offer code is TESTED to get 66% off a 2-year plan. Protect yourself online today with NordVPN. And back to the conversation. There's no way to pivot to talk about another topic. But Will, before podcast started, you told me you did something fun this past weekend I want to hear about. You went to a concert.
Oh, yeah. So some mutual friends of ours, Palette Swap Ninja, which is Dan Amrick and Judd. I don't remember what Jude's last name is. But they do a Weird Al style parody band that does a lot of different parodies of video game stuff, mostly is where they started. But see, last year for the 40th anniversary of Star Wars and the 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper, they released an album that kind of went big on the internet called Princess Leia's Stolen Death Star Plans.
It was a song-by-song riff on remake of the Beatles album with original lyrics by them telling the story of Star Wars.
Well, and they of the first Star Wars specifically.
Yeah.
They re-recorded all as you do when you do this kind of project. They re-recorded every instrument part on Sgt. Pepper.
Oh my gosh.
Which when you I hadn't really appreciated what an incredible ordeal that must have been until I saw them perform it live in Berkeley last weekend with a 90-piece orchestra. Right, so they had the band.
Oh my gosh!
Jude and Dan Dan mostly sang. He played a little bit of guitar. Jude plays keyboards and sings a little bit for a couple of the songs. He's not a comfortable singer, but he did his Darth Vader parts. And oh my god, it was like one of those times where, when you see somebody performing and they're performing in front of a big crowd and the crowd gets excited and that feeds the performer and then the performer gets excited and that feeds the crowd, and it just has this great positive feedback loop.
Amazing moments in time when you get to witness that.
And it was one of those. So because it's obviously content that is copyrighted on 2 or 3 different fronts, they did the concert for charity and basically, took out enough money to cover the venue and then, everything else went to, I think a charity that Carrie Fisher backed, but I can't remember. And it was great. It was a lovely show. Highly recommended. I think they're going to post MP3s at some point of that. But if you want to hear the album, you can just go to Palette Swap Ninja. Just search for Princess Leia's Stolen Death Star Plans.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And it pops right up. And it's very good. It's a very good piece of work.
What part of your brain did it satisfy the most? Was it the Sgt. Pepper's Beatles fan, because that's where the music
nice
is,
question.
or is it the Star Wars fan of obviously if you're a fan of both, right? But it's not John Williams' score, so you don't get that emotional connection.
So the orchestra warmed everybody up. The opening act was a 90-piece orchestra playing a bunch of John Williams scores. So we got a little bit of that in there. We got the Imperial March in a hall, which I don't think I'd ever actually heard live before, which is a kind of different experience. Look, the lyrics are clever. I always enjoy watching an orchestra. It's always fun to watch an orchestra just because there's so many times when there's people that are kind of idle waiting for their part, and it's fun. If nothing else, it's fun to watch them do their thing. It's fun to watch people play the violin and
the
string
level of
instruments.
professionalism of watching an orchestra do its thing is shocking.
And most of them saw the music that day.
Oh no, it's absolutely incredible what orchestras do and can't do.
And this was fun because the orchestra had rehearsed the songs that they played on, but on Sgt. Pepper, that's only 4 of the 12 songs or 13 songs. So most of the album, they were hearing it for the very first time, and watching the orchestra come around was very cool.
Oh, that's cool.
People were in Dan and Kat had made costumes. Kat is Katrin Auk is Dan's wife, and she did costume design for a lot of the performers, including a Chewbacca vest for the bassist, and it was very good. Nice. But the orchestra came in costume, the harmony singers were in costume, and it was all super, super well done, and fun to see the range of, and a lot of the attendees were in costume. There were a bunch of let's say preteen Rays and
that's awesome.
Some Princess Leia's, and it was really good. It was a good time.
We're very lucky to live in the Bay Area where there are I think SF Symphony does a regular event where they do the full movie and a live orchestra plays the score. So they have a version of the movie without the score, and the orchestra plays the music. And I think they did Batman last past year, which was every song but the Prince song. The Prince song was the only one where it was on the soundtrack.
There were a bunch of Prince songs.
With the Joker,
the Bad Dance one.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think they're doing Nightmare Before Christmas and Jurassic Park coming up. But
Jurassic Park would be fun.
Yeah.
Without music though, it's got to be weird. If you watched that.
Oh yeah,
copy of the film.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, just it's. If you want to know how important the music is to Jurassic Park, watch the Jurassic Park Brontosaurus reveal with the melodica instead of the orchestra.
Is that Chris Hardwick's favorite of the Plastic Winds?
I don't
Is that the one
know.
you blow into, the piano?
I think the melodica is the one with the keys that you blow into.
Yeah,
but I couldn't. I honestly couldn't tell you.
Mike Furman is amazing at that.
It sounds like a terrible recorder.
Yeah,
is all I can think.
Which is already a low bar.
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
You mentioned costumes. Halloween is next week.
Yeah.
I have a recommendation. If you have AMC Network, there is a 6-part series airing right now that E.I. Roth produced. AMC is doing this cool thing where they're producing these 6-part documentary series on different topics. The one that's airing right now is a horror theme. It's called E.I. Roth's History of Horror, I want to believe. And earlier this year, there was James Cameron did one, Story of Science Fiction, which a lot of people that we know were guests on there. Annalee Newitz was on, which was really cool to see James Cameron talking with George Lucas about their movies, talking to each other about their movies.
Man, really?
Yeah. I don't think that's streaming anymore. That's you may be able to find it on AMC's premiere program.
Okay.
The History of Horror. Do you like horror?
I don't like horror. I can't.
Yeah, I don't like horror
I
either.
can't. I can't sit through a horror
movie. I
movie.
shy away from it as well.
But I like this type of documentary series because
meta coverage.
yes, it's like the school book academic. You
Right,
know,
right.
It's like the magazine article.
Do you read horror movie plot synopses on Wikipedia?
No, I don't. I know people who do. I don't.
Just
No,
checking.
No, I just won't watch the film.
Um,
But he chats with, I think the first episode is about zombies, and there's just a great from, George Romero's Zombies all the way to, what Greg Nicotero's doing right now on Walking Dead, and the social implications and why. That's the talk of why people like zombies.
Right.
And Max Brooks talking about zombies because,
Nice.
World War Z and all that stuff. Yeah.
Aren't they? There's
There's a sequel
coming
yes,
out, right?
David Fincher is making that sequel.
really?
Fincher is making the sequel with Brad Pitt.
With Brad Pitt.
With Brad Pitt.
Are they going to cover Matthew Fox having married his wife?
What?
What? Yeah. You remember how in the beginning of World War Z, one of the guys in the helicopter was Matthew Fox?
Was that Matthew Fox?
That was Matthew Fox.
Wow, you're right.
And
that was the part of the script they got.
Yep.
They
cut the last third of the movie out and reshot it. Damon Lindelof famously rewrote the whole end, and they spent tens of millions of dollars reshooting it. And in the original screenplay, Brad Pitt finally makes it back home, and his wife is now married to Matthew Fox,
and he's cut out of the movie essentially.
Yeah.
Is that in
I'm
the
remembering
book
this
too?
now.
The book is completely
No.
different. The book's just a series of like
the book
anthologies.
is like The Good War as
Yeah.
science fiction zombie.
It's prepper
Fiction.
porn, essentially, right?
Yeah.
It's like
that's the How to Survive the Zombie Apocalypse. The first one.
they're all kind of the same. It's like it taps into the part of the brain where people love the deep dive into the what ifs and how that's what Max Brooks does. Did you know that he works for a think tank and studies ways in which governments can attack each other in non-traditional methods and the social and the economic ways in which societies break down, like raising the price of corn or something.
Gee,
or
how
just
would that
posting
happen?
stuff on social media that's factually untrue and half the public buys into.
Like the fact that the entire idea that a whole bunch of Star Wars fans hate Episode 8 is complete fiction. Fiction. It's mostly fiction. It turns out that most of those messages on Twitter came from Russian troll farms.
Yeah. It's Star Wars is tearing us apart.
But I think what I find really chilling about that is the idea that these bad actors are going right towards the roots of culture to foment bifurcation.
Well, of course. I mean, culture drives us forward. So why not? Why not take the
Hey, vote.
Yeah, we forgot to say it last week, but please.
Yeah, please vote.
It's too late to register almost everywhere now, but you should please go vote. It's really important.
It's really, really, really important. If you're thinking, I don't need to vote.
No, if you're never going to vote again, this is the one to vote in.
This is the one.
Yeah. People look, and the way to look at it is people think their votes don't matter. On midterm elections where turnout is traditionally really, really low, your vote is worth more because the only people who come out to vote on midterm elections are the people at the far extremes. So if you're near the middle and you feel like you don't get represented because it's crazy people on one side and crazy people on the other side, go vote.
Make a vote for sanity. Vote in the middle.
By not voting, you're giving someone else twice as much voice as you.
Yeah. Norm or me. Us crazy left coasters.
You don't want Norm making all your decisions.
No.
You'd be
none
exhausted.
of us want that. He talks about it so much.
We can't take the workload.
Speaking of people who can't make decisions, I've gotten all the way through season 2 of The Good Place, and I'm waiting for Gina to catch up now to watch season 3. That you guys were right. You guys were right to say, hey, you should probably go watch more of this. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How great is Maya Rudolph?
Maya Rudolph is look. I don't think I've ever seen Maya Rudolph in anything that I didn't like Maya Rudolph. Maybe in Sisters. But she was pretty good in that too.
Oh no, she's fine in that. She's terrific.
She's
in
a
that.
bad character. I don't like the character, but I like Maya Rudolph. Yeah, like that movie. Like she's fantastic in Good Place. Yeah. It's really really good.
Love that show.
The character brought in to help Janet's boyfriend, is brilliant.
Do you know how they wrote his character?
Yes.
Did I say it here on the podcast?
No, I'm not sure. You should tell everybody.
So Mark Evan Jackson, who plays Sean on The Good Place, is a friend of mine, and he was telling me that they take his lines, they feed it into an online translator, into another language, and then feed it into another online translator, bring it back to English, and that's how they give Derek,
I think,
his dialogue.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
He's such a wonderful actor too. I can't remember his name right now, but Janet. Oh my God, I love Janet, and I love Bad Janet. Bad Janet makes me laugh constantly.
Bad Janet.
Well, just when Bad Janet, you ask Bad Janet for something, and she goes. First of all, she never looks at you. She's always looking at her phone, and she goes, "Why don't you roll off your mom and do it yourself?"
The undercurrent that I like most about that show is that they hate phones. They hate phones more than any, like when
Totally
there's a moment when Eleanor is thinking about things that she misses from Earth, and the first thing she comes up with is her phone, and I'm just like, oh, this is too real. I'm gonna put my phone down now and maybe pay attention to the TV show for 5 minutes.
It's so good. We spent some time this weekend rewatching, because my wife loves this documentary, the first part of Martin Scorsese's long documentary on Bob Dylan. Which is so watchable and so incredible. An incredible deep dive. The interview, it is really anchored by this incredible interview with Dylan himself, who is so forthcoming. I could only imagine it's just him and Marty in the room alone together, because it feels that intimate the way he's talking, but then supported by everyone who was around at the time, and just really a remarkable view on an important time in history from a really important artist who is still really pretty incredibly articulate about exactly how important they were. Like, Dylan really got it back then, why what he was doing was important, and still is right there. It's really a lovely mind.
Is Martin Scorsese, is he put himself in the documentary?
He doesn't.
Okay, good.
No.
And that's one of my pet peeves about documentaries, when the filmmaker, I mean, for Scorsese, I'll watch it all day, but like when a first-time documentary filmmaker puts themselves
Ken Burns is like standing in the Civil War shot
and makes it too much about their relationship with the material.
It was the what was that real life crime drama about the bad guy with the lizard eyes who like supposedly killed his ex-girlfriend?
Manhunter?
No. It was nonfiction. And remember,
Manhunter?
he seems to.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm
lizard eyes.
No.
Is this Spider-Man 3?
Hold on. Oh my God.
Adam's gonna look it up. In relation to other musical or documentaries about musicians, I also rewatched the Netflix documentary about Lady Gaga after recently seeing Star is Born. And again, another recommendation for the film. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. And I wasn't the biggest Lady Gaga fan. Like, I just didn't know about her music as much.
Yeah.
And afterward, watching the documentary again, I think there were great companion pieces as well. It's the documentary is called 5'2", and it leads up to her performance at the Super Bowl.
Did you see the Dylan film from what?
The Jinx.
Okay.
The Jinx, which was Andrew Jarecki about Robert Durst.
Robert Durst, got it. That's
right.
It. That's it. Where he like basically confesses at the very end.
And I felt like the filmmakers put themselves into that more than I'm comfortable with. But I love when Errol Morris is interviewing someone using the Interatron. Do you know about this?
No.
What's Interatron?
Sounds terrifying.
Oh, no. Okay, so Errol Morris is up there with Werner Herzog as, like, to me, one of the great documentary filmmakers in history. And if you'll notice his documentaries, his subjects are always staring right down the camera. And what Errol does is he has built a box called the Interatron that uses a two-way mirror in front of the camera lens to project his face there. So he is the interviewer talking to his subject, and they are staring him in the eyes right down the camera barrel. And every now and then you'll hear Errol Morris ask a question. Did that upset you? You'll hear from the background because he's yelling all the way around so that they can hear him. But it's how he interviewed Robert McNamara for Fog of War, which is a mind-blowing documentary. So to me, I love that. Like, I don't mind hearing Errol Morris call out from behind the Interatron.
Yeah.
Have you watched American Vandal yet?
No.
You've got to watch American Vandal.
This is the parody.
Yes.
This is the high school
drama.
parody of Serial and
I keep hearing
Mindhunter
that
and
it's
all
great.
that stuff.
Yeah.
It's real. Norm told me I should watch it. He was absolutely right. It's exceptional.
Okay.
If you like that kind of documentary, you will.
I'm still working through The Americans, man. There's a lot to get
Just
through.
look. The Americans is going to be there. Take a break. The Cold War keeps going for a long damn time.
Hey, I saw A Star is Born on
Yes.
Sunday. We went to a matinee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's terrific.
It's good, right?
It's so good.
That's what I heard.
It's really good.
Have you seen the other? Have either of you seen the other Stars Are Born? The earlier
I have
versions?
only seen the Streisand
That's the one.
Christopherson one. I
Okay.
haven't seen either of the other two, the James Mason one or the. There's the James Mason one, and then there's another one which I can't remember.
It's Judy Garland.
Judy Garland and James
James
Mason.
Mason.
And then there's one
Yeah.
less than 10 years before that.
Okay.
But I'm a fan
good.
of the Chris Christopherson,
Yeah,
Barbara Streisand one.
I saw that one probably 20 years ago. I haven't seen it since then, but
This
it was
one
a
is
fine film.
I think this is as good
Okay.
as that film. I think Lady Gaga is amazing. I'm a big fan.
I have no doubt. Like
But she's a terrific actress.
Like the moment there was a video that went around the internet around the time her first or second album came out of her when she was at like a conservatory school playing just playing the piano on stage, no makeup, nothing, and just playing and singing, and it's riveting.
Yeah.
And like
she's a
it's-
remarkable
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
She's a remarkable thing.
Thing,
She's not a
person.
thing. She's a person.
She's a person.
She's a
Adam.
remarkable cultural event. Talent.
Yes. I'm reading Scalzi's new book, the follow-up to The Collapsing Empire, which I can't remember.
And I
what
haven't
the
yet
name
read
is.
Collapsing Empire.
Well, now you can go back to
Yeah,
back,
no, I'm gonna
and
jump
you'll
right
want
in.
to. It's good. It picks up where it left off. It's a delight.
He was here recently.
Oh, really?
He was here doing. He was here as part of the book tour.
Oh, that makes sense.
I didn't see him, but I heard that he was here.
Two ships passing in the night.
Chris DeBono reached out and said, "Hey, I'm going to go see Scalzi read."
There you go.
And if you are doing something fun for Halloween or have a costume you are in the process of making,
Oh, we totally want to know about
please
it.
share
What
images.
Are you guys doing anything for Halloween?
I'm doing Wreck-It Ralph.
What is that?
You don't know what Wreck-It Ralph is?
Well, I know it's a movie.
Yeah.
You're
What does
gonna
that
you're
mean?
gonna be
So my
Ralph.
Kid. Well, I'm trying to
Oh,
get it
you're
together.
being
I don't know if
Wreck-It
I can
Ralph.
get big enough. I'm working on bulking up.
You want to borrow one of my muscle suits?
Do you have muscle suits that would fit me?
I want to see this.
Maybe.
Yeah,
We'll
you
have
need
to
a
see.
big shirt.
Yeah.
It depends on how ripped I want to look.
Well, so,
I'm looking for overalls that are the right kind of overalls. But yeah, I'm thinking, and I don't know if I want to walk around barefoot at the zoo.
You
on
can,
Sunday,
you can
but-
buy some Hobbit feet.
Buy some Hobbit feet. I was
There you
gonna
go.
say.
Where do you get hobbit feet?
Oh, come on. It's real cheap on Amazon.
Oh, really?
Like the plastic just footy covers.
Oh, okay.
They're hairy on the bottom. You can shave them if you
I
want.
can shave the hobbit feet.
Shave your feet.
Huh. Okay.
that's-
Yeah, my kid's dressing up as Fix-It Felix
Oh.
because she's excited about the new Wreck-It Ralph movie.
You're
I will probably be playing the role of new father.
your father.
yeah,
Probably.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see. On the call.
Yeah.
What else is going on?
Yeah, we have a video out this week featuring our friend Daryl Maloney. He will Broken Nerd. He's gonna walk through the modeling process of a helmet, which is super cool. It's not a how-to, but it's a like if you want to see the intricacies of 3D modeling for 3D printing purposes, it's worth watching. And the new parts of our arcade cabinet build that Jeremy and Sean did are rolling out every Monday. So the first 2 episodes are out, totally worth watching. And you have a couple interviews, final interviews that you did at New York Comic Con are also rolling out.
Excellent.
With Melissa Ng and also Ruby Taki, who did a Metal Gear Online helmet. As well.
Amazing.
Yeah. A lot of cool stuff on the
Is
site.
that arcade cabinet here? Or is it over at
It's
Mike
at
Micah's shop?
it's at Other Ocean.
Okay. I want to go see that thing. I heard good things about that.
I know. I just
that
keep
game.
seeing pictures, but it looks very compelling.
Yeah. The game Warlords is an astounding game, and playing 6-player Warlords seems like it would be very, very good.
And that does it, I think, for this week. Yes.
This is an easy.
This might be it for a bit for you, huh, Norm?
Yeah.
We could lose you at any moment
We
now.
will. Yeah, I know.
Dun, dun, dun.
We'll get some other third seat to fill in.
We will.
Yeah.
Because Shore and I have been working on some special guests.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
People who wouldn't come if you were here.
I mean, that's a real long list. We can open it right up. It's Norm's enemies list.
I'm
Finally,
happy
get
to
him on
stay
the
at home
show.
with the baby.
But yeah, well, if this is the last one for a while, then good luck, Norm. And
See you after Thanksgiving.
yeah,
Good luck to you, sir.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
good.
Yeah.
You got it all out of your system.
Yeah, no.
do you know me?
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
Oh, we started? I'm Norm.
No, we don't have to. I was just.
Let's try. Let's
practicing.
dry
Okay.
run. Let's do another one.
He's gonna put this in, so I
Yep.
look like a dumbass again.
Go ahead.
Thanks for listening this week. And I also want to thank the other sponsor that made this episode possible, and that's the All Turtles podcast. They're back for season 2 with new episodes about artificial intelligence, entrepreneurship, and tech. Through interviews with thought leaders and startup founders, the show will introduce you to the people using AI to solve real problems in industries like healthcare, education, and art. Learn more about AI and entrepreneurship by tuning in to the All Turtles podcast at allturtlespodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next week.